distinguished guest in for speaking engagements, Dr. Howell. I'm not introducing you yet. We're going, but we fill the room up. So I'm Kevin Childers. Missed the board meeting, elected president. You know, that kind of stuff. You know, but. Ham Award they're going over there. First time meeting. Who's here for the first time? Who's here for the... That is not right. I saw hands go up that have been here a long time. Let's do that again. First timers. Wow. That's awesome.
Wow.
Your hand went up too?
You did.
Well, welcome. Welcome to the Memphis British Sports Car Club.
How many people we have tonight, Kevin?
63, I think.
Wow.
I would say this is capacity, wouldn't you? 63 is, and the meeting doesn't start for another 10 minutes. So the people that come in at 7, they're going to have a problem. They may have to stand. So, you know, we anticipated this. We sent out some letters. We've got a lot of enthusiasm in the club right now. So thank you, first timers, for coming. We will do some introductions right quick. Shakib, I'm going to give you a second to think about who you are and what you drive. Okay. But what we'll do is we'll make a quick round around the tables. Vince will go after you. We'll go up around this way and zigzag all the way around the room. So introduce yourself. If you drove a car tonight, if you didn't drive a car tonight, if you've got a car in the garage, tell us about it. Shakib, boom.
All right, Shakib Shook. I have a 1956
And I still have a 1991 XJS Jag in my garage that's not running. And any of you Jag owners that you know of a good mechanic, I've been turned down by quite a few. We don't work on that one that old anymore because we can't get parts. So I'm looking for info from Al or anybody else that can give me a recommendation on a mechanic that'll work on a 1991 Jag. Oh, good.
Your challenge, sweetheart, is common to us all. Okay.
Oh, well, that's nice to have company then.
Yeah.
Hello, I'm Sandeep, the presenter's friend. I have a 2020 Phantom, but I shared at the table that I drive a Geo Metro. And somebody, they said, what is that? So I told them I had to walk from home, from a country far, far away called Cordova, Tennessee.
And you're a comedian too, right?
Thank you.
Geo Metro. I haven't heard of that one. Wow. I'm James Curry. I do not drive a British car. I'm friends with Bill Howell, and he invited me here. I'm glad to be here.
I'm Jerry Farrar. I've got a...
Dr. Howell.
At least for the moment.
Yeah, let's get an introduction in. So we'll let Bob introduce Dr. Howell. Then we've got a game we're going to play, and then Dr. Howell after that. Then you'll have the mic. Okay.
Okay. And I didn't identify myself, but what is this?
The microphone.
Just hold it. Okay.
Swallow it.
Yeah, don't swallow
Okay.
it.
I didn't identify myself. I'm Bob Watkins. I've got a 1975 Brickland, which of course is Canadian, so I only have a half membership here. But it has really started leaking oil lately, so I feel like I kind of have a British car.
Oh.
Anyway, so, okay. So our guest speaker tonight is very, very dear friend from way back, Dr. Bill Howell, and he is going to talk to us about XKE Jaguars, I hope.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Chris Irving is we have two vice presidents, Paul Burdett and Chris Irving. Where's Paul?
I don't know.
Okay. But Chris has got a game we're going to play tonight.
I'm going to introduce
So,
myself first, though.
move.
I feel like I'm a bad student having to sit up here by the teacher. He's going to put me in the hallway next. Chris Irvine, I'm vice president, and I've got a TVR, I've got a Lotus, and my Xenos is now running perfect, and all the bodywork's repaired, everything. So I've got a little game for us. Won't take long.
Russian chrome, it's not dazzled with the phase cameras. It's everything that we love about the 60s. It's cool, collected, cosmopolitan. Need a second opinion? Just ask Enzo Ferrari. He might have called the E-Type the most beautiful car ever produced, and that's from the guy who gave us the 250 GT. Reason number two, it drives as good as it does. History is full of beautiful cars that don't always deliver the expected driving experience. Oh yeah, but that's not so here. The E-Type is comfortable on the highway, offering a relaxing ride along with plenty of power from that smooth inline six. Top speed was said to be right around 150 miles an hour. Still an impressive number decades later. The toggle switches found on the early cars offer that perfect classy detail. You just click them up and down. Everything you touch, everything you see, it's all very satisfying. The E-Type is roomy and easy to get into. One small footnote, some shorter people might not fit comfortably behind the wheel. So if in doubt, first try one on. Reason number three, it's simply a cultural icon. When celebrities own an E-Type, how about who did it? Drop it in the comments below. Reason number four, the E-Type came in multiple flavors. You can choose open or closed, with the closed cars available in both 2- and 4-seater guises. Prices might help guide your decision here, as the early open cars command the highest premiums today. Haggerty says more than $300,000 for a top first-year car. To dive deeper on the values, just go check out the Haggerty guide. Reason number five, you don't have to worry about a lack of parts.
Bill Howell. Well, that over there. Bill over. Okay. Thank you very much. A couple of months ago, I had to take a book over to a friend of mine she says she's about to pass away. And I drove up in the 98 Jaguar, and she looked out the window and she said, "I see you're in the Jaguar." And that brought up a really interesting linguistics question. And I think rather than read this paragraph to you, my wife and I found it really funny. I'm going to offer it in the newsletter of the club, because it's really funny, because there's so many things about Jaguar that are English versus United States, and it's all going back to what Mark Twain said, that England and the United States are two countries separated by a common language. The same thing is true as far as when we're talking about the E-Type and the XKE, because the English like to call it the E-Type, and we like to call it the XKE usually. There are other things that it gets called. My friend Bob is always reminding me of that. Let me tell you about somebody who really knows cars. Now, I'm sure this room is full of you guys here, but I'm going to tell you this story that was a shock to me. I had the problem in my 98 XJ8L. I have to remember what it is. I got to get it out of the mechanic shop. But I took it to this old guy who's retired. He operated under the name of Jaguar John. I think that Jaguar John is younger than me, but he was in the war. And I said, I can't open my door on the driver's side. I don't know what to do about it, because I know if we get into the door, it's going to cost a lot of money. He said, "What's the problem?" And he said, "This is all you have to do. You open the door."
There's nothing wrong with that. All he did was raise his knee to the panel. He didn't kick the panel. He just raised his. So that's what I've been doing. Because I don't want to spend the $350 for all those parts that go in the door.
That's good.
Am I in the right room here? Oh, okay. Yes, that's what it is. There are two people especially who are really the people who made the XKE or the E-type what it became. My first book that I wrote on cars, I had to explain in the foreword of the book that, say, General Motors, where I was writing a book on Cadillac Eldorado, there are a herd of designers, the ones making the most money, to say, I designed the 63 Riviera. Well, that's a bunch of crap, because in a big corporation like General Motors or Ford, you don't have that sort of freedom. And there were a multitude of people. There was a head designer who oversaw things, but that was that. In the XKE, though, or the E-type, we have two guys who really put in 98% of the effort and the beauty of this car. And as you know from my last talk, I am not talking about engines. I'm talking about design. Malcolm Sayer considered himself not a car stylist or an automotive stylist. He considered himself an aerodynamicist, and he was an aeronautical engineer, really. And of course, you all know Sir William Lyons. I was introduced to Sir William Lyons back about 1978 or 79 by Vice President of Design at General Motors. Every time he talked, we talked too long on the phone back when it cost a little money to do it, and it was very interesting. And he was always the perfect gentleman. He really was a nice guy on the phone. I never met him face to face. So these are the two guys. Now, I have my Snoopy question today. If you remember back when I talked about Austin Healey, I said, what does Donald Healey and Snoopy have in common? And I offered $1 for the winner. So who can answer this question? What does Sir William Lyons and Snoopy have in common?
Did they both fly stop with camels?
No. Well, that was the answer that would have worked last time.
No, I don't think that's it either.
Well, you have to understand that William Lyons was, he started off selling motorcycles. And he was especially getting old World War I motorcycles and redoing them and selling them. And some of them he souped them up. And Snoopy had a similar love. And you see that they both like motorcycle sidecars. And I don't know if you can see who is riding in this sidecar. Yes. Yeah, Woodstock. Nobody got that right, so we'll move on. $1 safe again. The one of the things that after he was selling these reconditioned motorcycles for a while, he started making a Swallow sidecar for the motorcycles. And he did that with a man named Malmsley, and it worked out really well. But they were doing essentially a body, and there came a time when they said, well, maybe we could put a body on a chassis. And this is very much like the big classic cars are that you see in the museums, with the Duesenbergs and all that. You would buy the chassis, and you would get somebody to make you a nice design and make a nice body. So they did that, and this is one that they put together, the SS1, and it was kind of a something that you were looking into the future with, because it was the long hood in front, which is characteristic of the sports car, even today. I'm going to come back to this. I hope. I don't know what happened to my slide. I don't have anything. It's not you, it's me. Could we try that other?
You've got it.
Oh, I got it. Okay.
You want to go forward and see if there's any more on here?
It should be there.
Let's try going.
I'm afraid. Anyway, this is where Sir William Lyons lived for many years with his wife, and he did something with his design work. He would oversee things very carefully, even after he retired from the company. The guy who had taken over from the company for him, Heinz, said that he would call every week and talk about what was coming out in the designs at Jaguar. What he liked to do, and I don't know how many times he told me this story. He said, I would talk to the technicians at the factory, and I would have sketches given to them, and I would give them suggestions about cars, and I would like to have them do a silhouette of the side of the car in plywood, and from the front and from the back, and they put that in my circle driveway in front of the house, and I would come to the windows and look out, and we would make changes like that. This is his head of you can't say design really. This man ran a part of the factory called I've heard it called the sawhorse and the saw room, and it had before been part of a lumber operation. He was working on different kinds of designs. Here he is with a mock-up of the XJ6 in the driveway for Lyons to look at. They would stand out. He said sometimes they would stand out there for hours talking about these different designs. And you have to understand, they start with a plywood silhouette, and then they would go to different moldings and different panels and that kind of thing. Quite often, a designer will have one side of the car with one design and the other side of the car with the other design. This is one of their talking situations. And he did these very cumbersome designs that I really loved them. I had one of these things for 4 days until my father found out. And he suggested very strongly that I take it back. but I really loved that car because it had the most wonderful smell of leather. I've never, well, you guys, I'm sure you've smelled it at different times, the British leather cars. This is the SS90 that came before the 100. And most people who like these classic cars consider that this was the first of Lion's big breakaway from everybody else. This was a distinguished sports car. When it was shown at the car show, he had a little sign beside the car. Guess how much I'm going to be retailing this car for? And people consistently bid prices like you were talking about before of the prices, the cost of the cars that were sold. They consistently said twice as much or 3 times as much as what the car actually sold for. And this was kind of the badge of Jaguar for decades. It was incredible that you could go into a showroom and buy a Jaguar sports car and take it directly to the racetrack and have a good chance of placing or winning. There are all kinds of figures that I can do, that I can give you, Bob, to support that. Because they were able to do that pretty consistently. This was the car that I first saw when I saw a real sports car. That I dated this lady over near Kennedy Hospital. You know where that is. And I didn't have driver's license then, so we would go to the movie. I'd take her home. I'd walk her home, and then I'd walk back home. And there were these guys that had this big garage, and they must have had 6 of these things, these XK120s, and I loved those. I fell in love with them. They were all white. They were like something falling out of the sky and from heaven. This is one of the times that this car was had placed high in the racing and won and consistently. And of course, the big story with this is the Haynes had worked. That was the guy who was head of mechanics at Jaguar. He had worked with a brake company to develop a really good braking system, and Jaguar was winning because of their brakes. One of the things that Sir William Lyons was able to do was to delegate most of his real managerial work to his secretary, Alice Fenton. And she was with him for 30 years. She came to him about 1930 and lasted till about 1960, and she passed away. That was devastating to Sir William. She not only did all his secretarial work, but she did a huge amount of the managerial work. And she did interviewing for various levels of people in the corporation. One of the people that she interviewed was Malcolm Sayer, who I've misspelled here. It's supposed to be another L before the M. And Malcolm was an incredible man. He was one of the best designers of the 20th century, and he does not get credit for it. He was a top person in his class in college. He was interested in aeronautical engineering. Now, this is when he was young, and then when he got a little older. He died in 1970 at about 52. And they have a plaque where he was born about his accomplishments, the E-type and also the Jaguar C and D types. He did much more than that. When he was in college, now this was back in the 30s, he was working with wind tunnels because he wanted to be an aeronautical engineer. He was a specialist in aerodynamics. They did incredible amount of modeling in this for his class. After his class, after he graduated, he was offered a job in Baghdad. When he got to Baghdad with his wife, he found out that there was no job. And he went to the university and he started working with them as much as he could. The mystery, there's a mystery here that no one knows the answer to, and that is he met a German man there who was a mathematical genius. I really think Sawyer himself was a mathematical genius. But they were doing things with slide rules and mathematical tables that only computers can do now. It was incredible, and that's how the E-type came about, was because of his skill with these instruments. Nobody knows the name of that German that he spent time with. He was a mentor for him for over a year, maybe 2 years. He founded a part of the engineering department, Sawyer did, and then he came back to Great Britain. And he worked with aircraft companies on warplanes, because this was World War II, you know. It was in all the papers. And he had a special dispensation. He was not going to be serving in the Army because his work with aeronautics was so important to the cause of the war. This is the primary bomber that he worked on at the end of the war, and it was a very complex operation, as you can see. This is how many people have not seen a slide rule? I'm curious. Oh yeah. Well, there's a lot of us relics. Yeah. So with the slide rules and the graphs and the mathematical tables, he tackled his design work. And one of the first things that he worked on was Jaguar, because Sir William Lyons talked to him 10 minutes and he was hired. Well, he had passed through Alice's office first. And Alice knew that this man knew what he was talking about. These curves and the sweeping lines that you see in this car are all worked out with his mathematical genius. And people try to copy this kind of thing in other places, but he was the first one to actually do this. The D type came next, and he put that fin on the back of it for stabilization and straightaways. And then they were talking about doing a large project car that would be a big statement in sports cars. They didn't know exactly where to go with it. Sawyer put together this basic design first. He worked on it for a long time. He started about 1957 on the E-type, and it took some time for him to work out the details. And there you see the basic body where he thought, well, now I'm getting somewhere. When they were in the middle of this, Prince Philip, Queen's husband, came to see the work that was being done, and the Queen later came. I have that picture too, but I couldn't locate it today. This is the stripped down version without the outside body panels. And one of the reasons why they kept this together for a while was that they wanted to find out what were possible problems with the basic chassis. There was a point where, this happened more than once, where Sir William Lyons would take the prototype car out and drive it